Today I'm going to attempt to answer what is perhaps the most frequent question that I am asked as an attorney who does criminal defense. And that question is, how can you, as an attorney and as a decent person, represent and advocate for people who you know are guilty of sometimes heinous crimes like murder, rape, or burglary? I'm going to answer that question here today. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'm Joe Pometto and this is my show, Joe the Lawyer. I'm a local Pittsburgh criminal defense attorney. I also do some personal injury, employment law, wills and estates, and contracts. If a client comes to me and there's something I think I can help them on, then I will take the case on. Thank you for tuning in today. This is a question that I'm asked all the time. How can you represent people who you know are guilty? There's a three-part answer. But before I get into that answer, I'm going to ask you to like, subscribe, and comment and share this video. If you like, subscribe, and comment, it lets YouTube know that you're watching. YouTube gives me a higher rank, and that incentivizes me to keep on making more content. Then I know I'm growing. I know I have an audience who is interested. Also, I have an email list. It's in the description below. If you sign up for my email list, you automatically get a free PDF on what to do when pulled over by the police. You can read that, wrap it up, stick it in your glove compartment, and save it for an emergency. I'll also email you updates on my show, new content, all kinds of cool stuff. If you don't like it after a while, go ahead and unsubscribe. And one more thing before we get into the meat of the content. This may be the reason that many of you came here. If you know my other channel, Common Sense Academy, you've come for the same time sip. Grab your drink, whatever beverage you have, lift it in the air. Let's cheers, okay? And let's sip together because it tastes better when we sip together. Ah, delicious coffee. So, how is it that I, as an upstanding citizen and good moral person, look, I'm not the greatest person, but I consider myself a pretty decent person. How can I represent and help these people who, especially when I know that they are guilty of crimes such as homicide, attempting to kill somebody, even sexual assault type crimes? Okay, a lot of people ask me this question because it's not something I think that everyone could do, and they also believe that it creates a moral quandary, as though I'm working on the side of evil, etc., etc. Now, what I say here today may not change your mind, okay, but listen to what I have to say, then you can see where I'm coming from, and maybe you won't think that all criminal defense attorneys are such bad people after all. To be honest with you, most of them are incredibly good people who care for the least fortunate people in this world, those who have done really terrible things to other people. You got to understand, a lot of these criminals, they have drug addiction, they have mental illnesses, they experience trauma as children. Really, they're people who need help just like everybody else. But let's get to the question. How can I represent these people when I know they are guilty? So I developed three three-part answer. Each are individual, but they also go together. Number one is that the system must always come first. Number two, constitutional rights, and number three is that I don't always know, nor do I always need to know, if the person actually is guilty. So let's get to the first answer, which is perhaps the most important, and that is that the system comes first. Let's back up a little bit and let's ask ourselves, what is the point of the criminal justice system? Okay, we have police, prosecutors, defense attorneys, judges, a whole elaborate framework and infrastructure set up to enforce justice. The goal of the system is to give people in our society justice, to right wrongs that were done, whether they be physical and criminal in nature or monetary in nature. A well-functioning society needs a place where disputes can be resolved and where justice can be meted out. Now, the point of that justice, or perhaps to get closer to justice, what we need is the truth. So the system is set up to help us get closer to the truth, to get the truth before a judge or a jury, a third party who then can decide exactly what justice should be handed out. It's almost always going to be a judge or a jury. That's the point of the system. Somebody goes out, shoots someone, robs them on the street. Okay, society needs to decide what has to happen to that person in order to deter future crimes, also keep the public safe from that person, and to also punish them for the crime that they committed. And in order, as a society, for us to meet those goals, we need to know the truth. So let's start off with that basis. The way the system is set up, it's called an adversarial system. So in the criminal justice world, someone commits a crime, the police investigate. A prosecutor will take that case into court and provide evidence that the person accused of the crime actually committed the crime. That prosecutor represents the interests of the state, the people, or society as a whole. Okay, and it is his or her job to go as hard as they can, because this is an adversarial system. I'll get to the explanation in a second. To go as hard as they can in court to win their case. Now, prosecutors do have additional duties. If they believe that a case does not have merit or that they're prosecuting an innocent person, they're supposed to not go forward with the case. But if there's enough evidence to support their theory that this person committed their crime, they're supposed to give 100%. On the other side, you have the accused, the person accused of the crime. That person has a constitutional right to an attorney. That's one key to number 2. Everyone has a constitutional right to an attorney. So I see myself as a defense attorney fulfilling that constitutional role that is required. Anyone who can go to jail for more than 6 months for a crime must have an attorney. That's the way the system is fit. The system does not believe that it is just to put someone in jail, even if there's all the evidence in the world to convict them, unless they have an attorney. So that's one cog in the machine in the system. So the accused gets an attorney who then goes 100% in their defense, attacking the prosecution's case, painting this individual as a good person. And what you get are 2 competing views. You have one, the prosecution, this person did it, is a bad person. Then the defense, this person didn't do it, is a nice person, or there may be some other theory of the case in order to defend it. And then you have the judge or the jury, who are the ultimate arbiters of justice. They get to see both sides of the coin, hopefully advocated in incredibly persuasive ways. And once they get both of those pictures as an objective third party, they make a choice. And that choice, after being bombarded with both sides, is supposed to be, and hopefully is, the one that is as close to truth as we can get, and also as close to justice as we can get. Now, of course, unjust decisions come down from judges and from juries. However, the system is set up to try to produce the best results the majority of the time. I don't argue that our system is flawed. It's incredibly flawed, but it's also incredibly fair in a lot of ways. Both sides get to be heard. Both sides get to tell their stories. Both sides get to have an advocate, me, the cog in the system, and the prosecutor, okay, who put everything on the table before the decision is made. So what society does is we put our trust in the process. The process in the system will not always produce the best results, but the hope is that it will produce good results and just results the majority of the time, and I actually believe that the system does do that. Now, if you have a defense attorney who's half-hearted or who is not good, okay, that's a cog, that's a piece in the system that hurts the system, okay? An innocent person could end up going to jail, all right? And the same is true if you have a corrupt or a bad prosecutor. The society, the public as a whole, or victims of crime, may not be getting the justice they deserve. But if both gladiators go in there and fight as hard as they can, the hope is that you get closer to truth and justice more often than not. So I see myself as a criminal defense attorney, no matter what my client's crime is, in order to uphold the integrity of the system, I have to give 100% in defending my client every single time. Does that mean that some guilty people sometimes get off? Yes. Okay. And on the flip side of that, some innocent people will also go to jail. Okay. And that's an injustice that we don't want. Perhaps both are injustices. But if everyone fulfills their role 100%, the integrity of the system remains intact and we get closer to justice most of the time. Only God ultimately knows the truth, and only God or the divine, even if you don't believe in God, okay, an omnipotent being can truly know true justice and true truth. We're humans, we're imperfect. We need a system that gets us close most of the time. I believe the justice system in the United States actually does that, and I'm a big fan of jury trials. Some countries don't have jury trials. I think they are fantastic. It adds legitimacy to the decisions and the system as a whole. So I see myself as fulfilling an extremely important role. And if I did not give 100% in defending this guilty person, the system as a whole could break down and or fail. Number two, the Constitution. I also see my role as fulfilling and defending the Constitution. As I said before, the United States Constitution requires that every person who's facing up to 6 months in jail must have an attorney. It's the Gideon v. Wainwright decision, came down, I believe, in the 1930s, 1940s. That's why we have public defenders all over this country. Everyone has the right to counsel, and somebody must fulfill that role. I believe fervently in that role. Now, I get paid. I'm a private attorney. I don't do it as paid by the government, but I think public defenders are fantastic, and a person charged with a crime can go hire a private attorney like me. On top of that, there are other constitutional provisions, such as the presumption of innocence is a constitutional right, a principle in the law that holds that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Okay, and I am what stands in the way of innocent people being proven guilty. That presumption of innocence lives through me as an attorney. I'm there to defend the case until the Commonwealth brings overwhelming evidence that I can no longer do so. And if the person is convicted at that point in time, there's nothing that I could have done. And again, hopefully, we are closer to perfect truth and justice when that does occur. Additionally, the Commonwealth, under the law, must prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm here to hold them to that standard, to make sure that when they send someone to jail or to death on the death penalty, I don't do death penalty, but theoretically, okay, that they're doing it beyond a reasonable doubt. Again, these things exist to protect the system, and they are enshrined in the Constitution, sometimes state constitution, and in the law. Every defendant gets an attorney. Every defendant is presumed innocent till proven guilty. Every case must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. I believe in all of those principles, and I fulfill the role that makes those principles real and helps us get closer to truth and justice in this country. I mean, the truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, that if the prosecution has enough evidence, there's likely nothing that I can do. But if they don't have enough evidence, I'm here to hold them to that standard. They have to convince that jury beyond a reasonable doubt. So I see myself as an important piece of a system that attempts to achieve justice. I also see myself as a defender of the Constitution and the constitutional rights that everyone is guaranteed when they are accused of a crime, when the state or the government is attempting to take away your liberty. It's a very serious thing, and I view my role as very important. The third reason that I can defend people who did heinous crimes is I don't always need to know whether they're innocent or guilty. I can fulfill those roles that I just told you without ever knowing whether they're innocent or guilty. And sometimes my clients, they never tell me. We never even get to that. It may be unnecessary. Sometimes they don't want to tell me if they did it or not. It can help if they do tell me, but sometimes they don't want to. And that's okay. We can do that. It's a strategic decision or something they're comfortable with. And I can spend my time just attacking the evidence that the other case puts forth. And I can lay alternate theories out for the jury or the judge to consider when deciding the case. So sometimes some of my clients who've done the worst things, they don't tell me whether they did it. Or sometimes my clients will lie to me. Not most of the time, but sometimes they lie to me. I don't know if they did it or not. And honestly, that's probably the majority of the time, especially on really serious crimes. I can fulfill those roles without knowing whether they're innocent or guilty. So that doesn't create a moral conflict for me if I don't know. Now, and this is maybe to the heart of the question here: is there a moral conflict inside of me? And again, I would have to say no. I'm a pretty logical, rational person. I obviously, like everyone else, I feel and I love, and I can be very emotional, creating words here, about certain things. But when it comes to my job, and I've been doing this for a long enough time, I'm able to separate my emotions. I see the logic and rationality behind what I do. And ultimately, a judge or a jury makes any decision. And at the end of the day, if a jury acquits someone, that's not on me. That's on them. I fulfilled my function. And if a jury sends an innocent person to jail, I may feel bad about that, but I've fulfilled my function. So I understand and believe in the system enough that I can defend someone even if they are guilty, because I know that preserving the integrity of the system, seeing that everybody has fair and full representation at each and every trial, is more important than any single case. Okay, the system is more important than any single case. There will be aberrations where justice is not served. But as long as we get justice a majority of the time, the system is a good thing and it is worth preserving. So those are the ways that I am able to cope with and sleep at night, even if I know that my client is guilty. I'll be honest with you, I don't lose a wink of sleep over it. I might. Some really horrendous crimes, I wouldn't take the case to begin with. But a lot of crimes, and I've represented people who've done some crazy stuff. I don't lose sleep over it because I know I'm fulfilling a role in a system that attempts to get justice. I know that I'm upholding the Constitution. This is something that the Founding Fathers wanted, that they saw as critical to the functioning of a good democratic republic. So I cherish that role. And number three, more than half the time, I don't even know if they did it. And even if they tell me that they did it, that may not always be the truth. So I can never necessarily know. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Joe Pometto. I'm Joe the lawyer. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share if you enjoyed this content. Drop in your comments anything that you want me to talk about in future episodes. I'd be happy to consider them. And sign up for my email list. You'll get a free PDF immediately. It does send 2 emails. Keep that in mind. You'll sign up. You'll get a confirmation email. You jump into that email, and then you'll get another email with the actual PDF. So there's 2 emails you will receive. Sign up for my email list. You're going to get cool stuff, updates from me. Thank you very much for tuning in.